All right, let's just dive right into this. Picture this. Your company just made a massive investment in Salesforce. You're in that beautiful, shiny honeymoon phase, right? You're bringing sales, service, customer data, and ops all under one super powerful roof. You go live, those dashboards look absolutely stunning, standard automations are saving everyone so much time, and you're thinking, wow, we actually did it. But then real life happens. Messy business processes kick in, people start actually using the system every single day, and suddenly, poof, that honeymoon phase is completely over. So today, in this explainer, we're going to look at exactly what happens when out-of-the-box standard features violently collide with complex business realities, and we'll figure out exactly when you need to bring in the heavy artillery of custom code. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the Salesforce reality check, then weigh out-of-the-box versus customization. After that, we'll talk about deciding between Flow and Apex, dive into real-world global complexity, and wrap up with the architecture imperative. Part 1. The Salesforce reality check. So when your unique business departments crash into standard software, the friction is basically inevitable. Right out of the gate, your sales team is going to speak up. They look at the standard quoting tool and say, our discounting does not work like that. Maybe they base their discounts on contract history or massive volume or some super specific regional rules. The standard configuration, it just kind of blinks back at them.
And then, of course, you hear from operations. They're just trying to fulfill orders. And they point out, hey, this system needs to communicate with 3 others. Maybe they literally have to connect the CRM to billing, e-commerce, and a massive data warehouse just to get a single order processed.
Then finance chimes in, holding the line on compliance as they do. They take one look at a standard automated workflow and hit the brakes. That approval cannot happen automatically. They need highly structured, multi-level review processes that standard, out-of-the-box tools just can't easily map out. And finally, customer service caps the whole thing off, dealing with the harsh realities of the front line. Listen, this customer has completely different rules from every other customer. This right here, this is the exact moment a one-size-fits-all approach just completely breaks down. Which brings us to a massive, unavoidable crossroads. It's a question literally every growing enterprise has to face eventually. Should the business change the way it works just to suit Salesforce, or should Salesforce be adapted to support the way the business actually works? That right there is the tipping point, where Salesforce customization becomes an absolute strategic necessity. Part 2, out-of-the-box versus customization. So how exactly do we bridge this gap? Well, technology experts like the team at Techcronus frame this capability gap really clearly for us. Look, out-of-the-box Salesforce is fantastic. It gives a global business ready-made CRM capabilities and standard automation right from day one. You can manage leads, handle basic workflows, all beautifully. But customization, and specifically using Salesforce's own programming language, Apex, is what actually adapts the platform to your highly unique workflows, complex data structures, and those multi-system connections we talked about. Customization is basically the bridge between a generic, off-the-shelf platform and your actual living, breathing business process. Part 3, deciding between Flow or Apex. Okay, but how do you actually know when to use the standard tools versus custom code? Salesforce gives us Flow, which is this great visual automation tool, and Apex, which is just pure coding power. This practical rubric maps business situations directly to those choices. If you've got simple, predictable automation, like, say, creating onboarding tasks in the UK after a deal closes, you choose Flow. It's fast, it's easy to maintain. Done. But if you have really complex pricing logic, like in the US, where discounts rely on heavy volume and deep history, you're going to need Apex. For high-volume processing, like batching massive daily orders in the UAE, you need Apex designed specifically for bulk safety, so you literally don't crash the system. If you have multi-system processes, like syncing a CRM with an ERP in Saudi Arabia, you often need a mix, Apex and Flow working together to control that integration. And for a truly global enterprise process, a hybrid approach is often your most scalable bet. Flow kicks off the process, and Apex handles all the heavy lifting and calculations in the background. Now, before you let anyone write a single line of code, you need a solid mental model. Because remember, writing code introduces maintenance, period. So the experts at Techcronus use this really highly actionable framework before building any custom code. Here are the 3 big questions you absolutely must ask. Number 1, can Salesforce already do this natively? Seriously, don't reinvent the wheel. Number 2, can Flow handle the requirement cleanly without creating this massive, tangled, fragile web of automation?
And number 3, and honestly, this is the most important one, will the process become fragile as the business grows? Why does this matter so much? Because a workflow process that works flawlessly for 500 records might completely break and crash the whole system when you hit 500,000 records. You have to build for scale from the get-go.
Part 4. Real-world global complexity. To really wrap our heads around that scale, let's look at how geography actually impacts these decisions and what drives the need for custom code depending on where you are in the world. Let's start over in the USA. For US enterprises, the main driver for custom code isn't usually the CRM itself. It's the massive scale challenges and the sheer number of outside systems that need to be connected to it. We're talking about hooking Salesforce up to giant ERPs, complex billing systems, massive e-commerce platforms, and deep data warehouses. When a single quote depends on data being pulled from 5 different systems, you absolutely need Apex development to orchestrate that reliably.
Now, if we hop across the pond to the UK, the focus shifts just a bit. Over here, process control and compliance are absolute king. Financial and professional services require highly structured approval processes. You've got complex handoffs, bouncing from sales over to delivery and finally to finance. That automation must be strictly maintained and have total auditability. And that level of precision often demands custom code to ensure literally nothing falls through the cracks. Next up, let's move to the UAE. Operating a business in Dubai or Abu Dhabi usually means you're acting as a regional hub for the broader GCC markets. And wow, this introduces some massive complexity. You're dealing with multiple corporate entities, wildly fluctuating currencies, really complex regional pricing tiers, and super diverse partner channels. Standard CRM features can quickly become a massive bottleneck here if they aren't customized to handle that intense level of cross-border operation.
Finally, let's look at Saudi Arabia. The digital economy here is just booming right now. In fact, Salesforce has planned a $500 million investment in the kingdom to support AI and local ecosystems. For Saudi enterprises, CRM isn't just another software tool. It is a core part of a massive, broader digital transformation. And that requires advanced enterprise architecture, integrating AI-enabled workflows, and building out scalable business logic that can actually keep up with the region's rapid, explosive development.
Part 5. The architecture imperative.
Seeing all this global complexity leads us directly to the underlying strategy that is going to make or break your customization efforts. And honestly, we can't talk about architecture without defining the ultimate enemy here, technical debt. Technical debt is essentially the future cost in time, in money, and in pure frustration that you create when you use poorly designed code or fragile, messy standard automations instead of just building a proper, scalable architecture from day one. As the sources point out, a cheap quote for quick development today, that can become an incredibly expensive nightmare tomorrow if that code requires endless future rework.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that architecture has to come way before implementation. Based on the methodology from Techcronus, you've got to truly understand the business processes before you even think about recommending a technical solution. You have to map those actual business goals directly to the CRM architecture. You must identify exactly where the bottlenecks are before you just blindly automate an inefficient process. Only then can you intelligently choose whether to use Flow, Apex, or a hybrid of both. You are always designing for future scale and volume, not just slapping a Band-Aid on today's problems.
Which brings us right back to the ultimate question. If your sales, ops, or finance teams are constantly fighting with your system, you have to step back and honestly ask yourself, are you changing your business to suit Salesforce, or are you changing Salesforce to suit your business? Knowing exactly when to step out of the box and leverage the raw power of custom code is the absolute key to scaling up without all the growing pains. Thanks for exploring this explainer with me today, and I really hope this gives you a completely new lens to look at your own tech stack